What made you pursue a career in engineering?
All throughout my life, I had many teachers who became mentors to me, and a lot of them just happened to be in math and science, and they were telling me about their careers and the goals and the things that they had done to get to that point. And for me, after having gone through those math classes and science classes, I did well, but they were still very challenging. And I knew that I wanted to pursue something that would allow me to be creative because I also loved creative writing and the liberal arts too. So it was very difficult for me to decide on a major at first. But after giving it some more thought, I realized that with engineering, I can apply design and creativity to something that's also about the application of math and science as well. And for me, it was about the challenge and really about the idea of problem solving. Um, and even growing up, I liked math classes and I enjoyed them, but they were still challenging for me. There were times where I did well and times where I didn't do so well. But for me, it was about that problem solving aspect that really got me interested in engineering. For a small fee, or it'll be free for you to see what they've been up to, but they'll have hours for networking and dinner too. So it's a nice way to allow that conversation to happen without making it too intimidating. It's a really great thing.
That's great that you've established a goal for yourself. A lot of people have to really push themselves to go to networking events, but you seem to be a natural at it.
At Merrimack College, we learned a lot from the Career Center about all these different resources and groups that we can take advantage of. And in engineering, I got involved with Society of Women Engineers. And my freshman year, we went on a trip to a local company. I think that they called that an outreach trip, or, oh, they called it a site visit. And for me, that kind of opened my eyes to realize that I can make these connections and that it isn't that scary. It isn't that hard. And I was very shy at the time. This was my first networking event back in freshman year. And I told myself I wanted to make it a goal to attend more because I had heard of people getting job offers through networking events and making new connections that would lead to other different connections. And for me, the Career Center offered a lot of resources, but they also encouraged us that it's also about perseverance and exploring these places ourselves. There's so many organizations. I believe Eventbrite has so many different events. There's so many different meetups. There are often different engineering chapters of different organizations in the area. And I noticed that a lot of different companies, I think the one was High Res Biosolutions, they'll offer, I think it might be once a year, they'll offer an event open to the public, of course. It was hard at first, and I kept telling myself, I have to have someone to go with me. I have to have a buddy. But after I did it once and I was nervous, I was probably the only person in the room who didn't know anybody there. But it almost made me stand out in a way because others had seen that I was putting myself outside of my comfort zone and really showing interest in this company. And that was how I got two more contacts through that networking event. And I'm really glad that I've grown through all of this.
What might you suggest to other students who are interested in starting to participate in some networking events?
I would tell them that it's always a good thing to reach out and to kind of tell that inner voice inside of you that's telling you, oh, maybe I might be bothering somebody by asking if I can come in for a shadow or asking if I can learn about their experience, just to tell them that it's okay to ask for help. They'll be so happy to realize that this person is interested in what the work that they do and hearing about their experience. There's so many different websites and organizations, Mass Robotics, and through all the different clubs that you can participate on campus, they're always holding different events and things throughout the year that will allow you to expand on your professional development too.
You've also seemed to have a lot of success finding out about internships. How did you find out about those?
several internships I learned about through through networking events, and the Career Center was a great resource for me, but it was also through, I think that they say that it's often about who you know,
Mhm.
where you can be really successful. And for me, on my internship journey, I had a couple different companies that I was interested in, but I had to take, I had to send out almost, I want to say 50 to 60 applications before I started hearing back from four. I finally got an offer from a company that was close to me, and unfortunately it did get rescinded due to COVID-19. But with internships, my biggest piece of advice for students is to just never stop looking and to just be patient with it all. I think that the hardest part for me was telling myself that you always have to keep going no matter what. But that is how the most rewarding experience will happen. And sometimes it can happen in the most unexpected of places too. Through your connections, sometimes it can happen by meeting someone who really wants to introduce you to somebody and says, oh, I think that this student would be a great fit for this company. And he'll contact one of his colleagues that, or somebody, one of his friends that he knows. And I realized that your network is a lot bigger than you might realize.
That's a great point. In fact, I think that's how you may have connected with the STEM van through networking at Merrimack.
I believe so. I found an event through the Society of Women Engineers, and it was in Beverly. I said, it's in my hometown. I can visit my folks. And I knew it was a great company. I did some research on what they had been doing. And I invited a girl from Merrimack to come with me too, and she was really excited to go, and I'm glad that I've kept in touch with her as well. And I said to myself, this sounds like a great opportunity. And that's how I met Jay, and then the dean of our school came along as well. And I believe it was a couple months after that I reached out to Jay about the STEM van because I really would like to be an advocate for young people. I think that my one I guess I wouldn't consider it a regret, but I always hoped that when I was younger, I had even um, more guidance when it comes to STEM education and more resources to help me out and to give me some more confidence. And I'd love to be a resource and give back in that way.
What was your first networking event like, and do you have any tips for other people who might maybe new to networking?
I remember that the employees of the company gave a presentation about what they had done and how mechanical engineering is involved in their work. And at the end of the event, we all got their business cards, and they told us if we wanted to reach out, we could do that too. But sometimes I've noticed that sometimes it's good to make that conversation and say, "Hi, how are you?" It wasn't an easy thing for me, but even just by going up to someone and saying, "Hi," and if you see their name tag, I think they often give out name tags where you can put down your name and what company that you work for. If you see if you're walking around and you see someone that might be approachable, just give them a hello and just go talk to them. Um, it is kind of scary, but I think that the one thing that I had to learn throughout the whole process is that sometimes even just that little step, once you take that step, it gets so much easier. I guess that I love to kind of talk to people about this sense of imposter syndrome that I've always struggled with. I still struggle with. I think a lot of people do. It's really thinking about the achievements and the things that you've done, thinking to yourself, oh, well, that's not really a big deal. I don't really understand why I got accepted to this position or why I was chosen for this. I don't really understand why. And I tell myself that today, but I've really been trying to focus on developing more confidence and realizing that I am deserving of those accomplishments and that they're not just choosing me because they said, all right, I guess we're going to choose Erica. Um, I guess that was the hardest part for me when accepting that internship for Dassault. I kept telling myself, why did they want to choose me? What is it about me that they really liked? I felt that that interview just didn't go well. I almost told the recruiter I wanted to rescind my application because I just felt so embarrassed. There were several questions that he asked me that I didn't really I just didn't really know the answer, and maybe I just wasn't having a good day, or I just didn't know the answer, and I admitted that to him. I didn't lie about that, so I'm glad that I did that, of course. But the hardest part for me was accepting that he wanted me to work for that company, and it took me a while to let that sink in. I applied for this position on Indeed.com, and I was shocked because I do believe that most positions and internships happen due to connections. And after finding this internship on Indeed, I said, I'll just send it, I'll send my application out there, but I really don't expect to hear anything back. And once I heard something back, she said that this boss at this company would like to interview me for the position of a quality assurance engineer for the internship. And I was so surprised, but I think that I just found them because that was how the process worked. I think the recruiter reached out to me and told me that I would be interviewing with the manager at this company. And then she reached out again to say, Erica, I'd like to have a conversation with you regarding the position. And I asked myself, well, I'm wondering why she's asking to talk to me, because I thought that I didn't do well in the interview. I thought that they were about to reject me. So after after getting that email, I responded to her. I said, sure, this time works for me. And after we set up that phone interview, she said, I'd like to thank you for interviewing with us, and we would like to offer you the job. And I was very excited about that. But I think that the recruiter, I got in contact with her through the process through Indeed.com. I'm not really sure how that worked out. Sometimes those connections, they can reach out to those people who are so willing to even just give you a tour of the company. I actually also met a manager of this company at a event for, it's an orchestra that I got involved with, and I really would love to get involved with more opportunities to play the violin, but this was back, I believe, a year ago. I met him at a rehearsal, and I just happened to sit next to him, and he said, oh, hi, what's your name? And I said, I go to Merrimack College, I'm studying engineering. And he said, I am actually the engineering manager at this place in Wilmington. So that was how I got a tour of a company, and I'm still in contact with him. But this was such a good way to meet a new connection, and it just happened by chance. And I think another thing to tell students is that you never really know where these connections could come from. As long as you put yourself out there and continue to go out into the world, you never know when the next opportunity awaits. One of my roommates actually asked me, she said, Erica, I'd love to attend the next career fair at Merrimack, but I don't really know where to start. I'm a little bit nervous. So I gave her some advice for that. I like it because then the people at the company, they can really see your personality shine through. And it's a really good chance to just tell them that I'm looking for an internship, and I've heard about this company and I've done some research. And if you can, if you show them that you've done research on the company, even just by introducing yourself and showing off your personality, it can really help the person decide, oh, is maybe this person might be a good fit for this company. I consider it to be a hit or miss, but it's really all about what you make of it. Sometimes I've noticed students kind of shying away and almost like putting yourself in, I guess, what I would call a wallflower situation, which I've done myself plenty of times. It just kind of hanging in the back, looking to see all the different companies, but not really approaching anybody. And if I did approach someone, sometimes I would just say, hi, I'd like to hear about what your company does, and I'd like to hear about your opportunities. And oftentimes they would send me to the website, which I notice a lot of companies do. And but sometimes there would be those people who they might offer interviews at the career fair, and that happened at one of the SWEET conferences that I attended about a year ago, and one of the girls that we went with, she got a job offer just by going to the conference. She said, "Hi, my name is such and such, and I'm looking for I'm looking for a job. I am studying mechanical engineering." And I think that just by telling those people that you've done your research, you know what you want, you can get very far, even just with, I think the confidence is what really makes the difference.
They'll remember you versus other candidates that might drop by.
Another thing that I've heard might be very, very helpful is if students bring their own business cards and say, almost it's almost as if you're also telling them that yes, you want them to choose you for the position, but you also want to choose them. And I think that it helps really define your personal brand by having business cards. And I was able to get a couple of them, I think about 10 or 20 through Merrimack. They had a way to print them. And if schools and colleges can do this, and even maybe in high school, if they had some sort of initiative to introduce students to this way of establishing their personal brand by giving them their own, maybe a couple different business cards, even though it might not be something that they can use just yet, just kind of introducing them to that, I think would be a great idea. I had a few classmates, they were asking me, they said, "Gee, Erica, you've been going to all these places. How did you hear about these places?" And I said, well, it's almost like a domino effect, because I'll go to this company and they'll tell me, "Oh, you should check out these resources." And then after I check out those resources, I'll hear from somebody after looking into that opportunity that there's another opportunity at this place. So it's almost like finding these things one after the other that are all kind of connected, but you really never know where it comes from. And sometimes you just happen to find them online, like through those job search um, things like Indeed or Glassdoor, but you never really know where the next opportunity might come from. And I told my classmate, I said, if you'd ever love to come to events, of course, you're welcome. I said, but even just going by myself, I've learned that would I rather miss out on this opportunity and stay in my comfort zone, or would I be able to take advantage of this opportunity and take a risk, but that risk would pay off? And I think just realizing that, for me, that's how I was able to find all these things, and I'm really grateful for it. Sometimes I'll even Google engineering companies in Beverly, Massachusetts, for example, and it'll come up with some companies, and I'll go to their website, and sometimes I'll notice that they have an internship position available, but I never saw it on Indeed or Glassdoor. So if I didn't go to that company's website, I wouldn't have found that position. So sometimes by going through a variety of different avenues to find something, I would say that that's the best way to really maximize your chances for success.